Greetings. Do your printouts come out all sort of wrinkly like this? You probably can't tell that's wrinkled, but if it does, you probably already know that you need new fusion rollers in your Brother printer. I went online, I was having this problem. It's actually the second time I've had this problem. And went online and I couldn't find one that was exactly my printer. I found one that was similar, it was close enough, and I used that as a reference. But I decided to make this video actually more for myself than for you, because if I have to do it a third time, I don't want to have to figure it all out again. So I'm going to commit this to video, and hopefully this will help somebody else, because there are some little intricacies involved with this printer versus the one that I will reference in this video. Alright, so that's it. Hope this repair video helps you. So when you're taking it apart, it's hard to access these screws with what I call the tailgate, sort of like that. You can't get your screwdriver in there. So it helps to take these. I'm going to take it off and show you up close, I think. It helps to disconnect this guy. Let me see what it looks like on camera here. Yeah. From the printer, and it's got this delicate little jaw right here, and you can kind of pop it off. Okay, the next step is to remove this screw here. There'll be a little cover, I think, that helps secure this in. And then there is already a cover here on this side that I've removed this screw, and it should come out, but it's kind of caught up in there, and so I'm going to see how to get it out and then put it on the video. Alright, I figured out how to get it out by nearly breaking it. What's holding it in is this little clip here. Let me see if I'll bring a light so you can see it. Right here where my finger is, you have to push it down and it'll unclick away from there. It fits into this little slot right, I think it's right here. So that's, yeah, kind of tricky. It didn't come out like the other one. You think a screw would be enough. On the other side, let me move it. This screw actually doesn't hold the cover, it holds the entire mechanism. But before you pull that out, you're going to need to disconnect these. Alright, so this one's a little more robust, but this top part here pushes in. It feels strong. It feels fairly firm, so you got to put a bit of pressure on it. But you squeeze it because it's latching. This one's latching under here. So you squeeze it and lift. There we go. And then it'll come apart. Okay, I was wrong. You don't have to disconnect these two. What you can do is remove the whole board, and here's how you do it. Hopefully this is coming through on video. It's hard to tell. Back here there's a little tab, and you press it that way, and that will try and kind of lift up on the board. This black piece here is attached to the board, so you can use that. So you just push back there and lift up there, and it's tucked underneath right here, so you'll have to go that way. So you push the little clip that way, and you move the board sort of up and toward the front of the machine, getting out from underneath here. I'll try and demonstrate, but I have a feeling I'm going to be blocking the camera. Sort of like that. Now, you may have to disconnect them in the end, I'm not sure. Okay, so this connector, I'll demonstrate on the blue one I think, but this is difficult to do because what happens is there are two catches. Let me see if I'm still on camera. Yeah. There's a hole here and another hole over here. And this has a bit of an arrowhead designed to it on the back. It's hard to see, but right here and here is a catch. Right there and there. And so you have to pry this connector forward a little bit and then pull it up so that it clears those two holes. So those little catches clear those two holes. And it really feels like you're going to damage the connector, and you might, because this wiggles around quite a bit like a loose tooth. So you just have to be super delicate, and I'll try and do it right here. I'll demonstrate by destroying mine for you. I'm going to stick this little tiny screwdriver in between, and I'm applying pressure forward toward the front of the machine, doing the loose tooth thing, and I'm also twisting it. And now I'm just gonna try and pull it. There you go. Okay, so that board can be, I guess, tucked back in there. And I've already disconnected the other one, so theoretically this now comes out. Okay, this unit wasn't coming out because I missed another screw right up here. And out it comes. Alright, so now I'm going to follow this other guy's video. His unit is substantially the same as mine. It's a little bit different. I have this little tiny spring attached here that he didn't seem to have. And I'm not sure of its purpose, but it seems attached to the other spring. He said pull these two springs. They're these two springs that are attached to the metal. There's one here, one on the other side. These springs are pretty strong, and you may be tempted because there's good access here to come in, especially if you have a pair of needle nose, and grab it and pull this way to get it off on this end. But I kind of think that may not be the best solution. He's pulling them from the other end, and I think I see why, and that's because this is attached to plastic. So if you're going to pull real hard that way, you maybe could break the plastic, but if you pull real hard this way, it's actually attached to much stronger metal. We'll see if I change my mind on that, or if I wind up breaking the plastic anyway. I realize you can't see this very well, but I'm just going to grab it. There we go. So I pulled it up and over that way and let it drop down inside. Now, I don't know if that's on camera, so I'll move this. I'll do the same with this one, hopefully with the same level of success. There we go. So this wrinkly look here, hopefully that's being picked up on the camera, is what I'm seeing transferred onto my paper. And it would be nice just to replace this guy and be done with it, because this one's a lot more complicated. But you can see right here, I'm hoping that that's visible on camera as well. It's basically coming apart. It's got these little ridges, and the new one you can see is perfectly smooth. Both of them are, so they've got to know this is a problem, and I'm thinking they don't care, because then you can spend money on this or a whole new printer. So anyway, I'm going to follow that guy's instructions just as you can. You don't have to watch my video to disassemble this and replace both rollers. There's a hook on the end here, the metal, and it's just hooked onto that spot right there. So you just basically unhook that, and I don't know if I need to unhook both of them. I see. I think you have to turn it to a certain angle before the hook will come off, or in this case, go on. But if you just keep it all together, as I've just done here, I don't think you'll have to. I'm going to pull that one out. So you see, I just did the error I told you not to do, which is I pulled this out and I just took it away as if it were nothing. I didn't bother to look and see if it was symmetrical. I don't know if it goes in this way or that way. Now I'm pretty sure I had it this way because I found some grease on one end over here that I would think was over there. But I'm looking at it now and I also think it is actually symmetrical, so I kind of don't think that's important, but you know, just generally it's a good idea not to do what I just did. So you may wonder, like, how do you keep all your parts straight? I have a tendency when I'm working on a car to put these things all in a little bag and I label them. I'll even put the step I'm on for the part, because I actually make notes along the way as I disassemble the order in which I've done things, and then I can just say, okay, so 13 says remove the little screw, and here's the little screw. I'll put it in a baggie and I'll even put 13 on it. I might put the springs in there as well because they're all part of this sort of general area here. The printer is a little bit simpler than I'm used to doing on cars and things, so I'm kind of lumping things in the first, say, 3 or 4 steps, and then the next few steps, that kind of thing. But a good advice at all times really is, if you can, put the screw back where you got it or drop it somewhere. That way, sometimes screws will look the same, but they may be a little bit shorter, and that's because if it goes too far, it might interfere with something. And so it's always good. That way, if you'll know not only where the screw is, and you won't have any chance of losing it, but you'll also know which screw it is. So I'm just going to put that partly back into its hole. And again, you want to note the direction these things went. As you saw, I just laid them aside. And if I need to move them, I'll probably make another note. I'll left-handedly remove this screw and see what happens. Okay. So this cover goes over this heat strip thing that he was talking about, which is really delicate, so you have to be careful there. Alright, so the next step here is we're trying to remove this roller, right? Well, there is a heater strip that goes down the center of this hollow roller, and to get it out, there'll be interference. I will show you here. Right here. Oh, that's visible. This connector goes to inside there. There's a spade connector. It pushes on, and you won't be able to, if you undo the screw to pull the roller out this way, then this will interfere. So you have to disconnect that. So you should leave this screw attached. That'll hold the heater in place while you're putting force on it, and you won't damage the heater. This heater goes down the center. It's kind of like a halogen lamp almost. You shouldn't touch it. It's very brittle and fragile, and you don't want to stress it. So disconnect this guy by pulling it up that way by leaving that screw in place for now. So I'm going to do the unthinkable, and I'm going to pull this by the wire. You're not really supposed to do that. I'm going to set it down too so I can get a better grip. Yeah. Okay, so that worked. And I will show you now that I can pull this front wire, that's the one, out of the hole. Okay, so the connector that I removed over here, this guy, there's another one on the other side over here, but apparently it comes in from the opposite side, and we call it back. I don't know what's the back or the front. Let me see that on camera. Yep. And this cover, which is held onto this screw, comes down and around, and in fact it even strain relieves these cables. So he actually unstrain relieved these cables. You might want to note, you know, how they route so that you can put them back again. So you got to disconnect that one because it's going to hold the heater in place. And actually I can already tell this roller is moving up, and it can hit the heater element, so you have to really be careful at this point. Okay, it's just finicky. These things have a tendency to get caught. Now that's fallen off, and I don't really know exactly how it went on. I think it's a sort of plastic shield that goes on here for friction. So I'm going to look at the other side. There's one over there as well. My bearing just fell off. So let's see if that's on camera. You can see this plastic shield here. And I'm going to pull, I think, the heating element out. Here we go. I'm going to set that down, and note that the direction it goes. You need to keep these parts here. The bearing that fell off, which I think went on that way, it looks symmetrical. It is. And this bearing, and we have to remove this plastic gear. But I don't think it matters which way it goes on, like I did earlier, but what does matter is down here, you can see how it's held on. There are two metal pieces on the roller itself that just get bent. So I'm hoping I'm on camera here. So right here, I'll bend one right now inward. I'll roll it around, and I'll bend the other one. I'm going to move, in case I didn't get it the first time, inward. And then this slides off very easily, along with the bearing. Okay, at this point in his video, what he did was he cleaned this all up, but his was in way worse condition than mine. I don't see any pieces. This roller, pieces didn't come off this roller yet. It was just sort of starting to malform. It's getting these spiral shapes in it and that sort of thing. So I'm not gonna do that. Mine's real clean. He also cleaned his heating element, which I don't want to do. I don't want to touch it at all. He used Windex, I think, on there, but I'm just gonna leave it. I don't know how it'd get dirt on it since it's inside this roller anyway. Which means I've reached the halfway point, and I think everything is more or less the reverse of putting it together. But I'm going to put on new gloves to handle the black roller, and I'll let you know if I'm wrong. Yeah, so again, there were some subtle differences between mine and the guy's video that I'm following, but you're going to need to retain these plastic pieces on the end here, and I think if you want to do this and you don't have gloves, I would just sort of leave this on, maybe cut the end, leave this stuff on to protect it, and maybe just cut the end so that you can get access here. But just make sure, obviously, before you go any further, make sure the rollers are the same size, and then you put it back. You're going to need this and stick it on there, and then your bearing, which is over here, and then you stick your gear, and there are notches here and here, and there are notches on the inside. Those locate it. That'll allow it to go on. There we go. I'm going to kind of push down on it to make sure that's okay. Then you reverse the process that we did before by pushing these in. Now he grabbed out here. Let me see if it's on camera. Yeah, he grabbed out here and squished them. But I think what I'm going to do instead, let's see if it'll work, is I'm going to put, yeah, they bend pretty easily. It doesn't have to be, you know, super precise here. It's just meant to hold it on the end. So just twist your needle nose and it'll hold it in place there. Okay, right? So, try not to get, if I get any dirt on my gloves, I don't want to get it on the roller. But I'm going to need this piece. Goes on the end, just like before. My bearing goes back on there. And then the heating element can go back in from, it's hard to keep that bearing on there. It goes back in the way it came. So just like that. Put my bearing back on again. And then the thing is, I now have to figure out how this went. I believe it went. Stop it, you silly bearing. Okay, I'm gonna put that on last. Clearly, this goes on there. I think it goes this back down in its hole, ever so carefully. Alright, I'll just put that on later. And you can see, hopefully on camera, that the bearing has a place to sit in the housing. There we go. And in fact, it all dropped in, which is kind of nice. I notice this hole is not lining up, however. And the little mylar friction thingy, whatever it is for, has come off on this end as well. So now I'm going to have to find it and fish it out. But I think you get the idea. I'm just going to put this one back on. I'm going to put that one back on. And then I can put the two little screws back and kind of reverse what I was doing. There's a metal prong here, and there is a slit in this plastic which will help hold it on. Okay, I did find another little problem on assembly. I believe that I've gotten this end wrong. I think this metal, I think, goes underneath, because on the other side, I don't know if it's going to be visible or not. This is really, this metal piece, this the spade that this connector goes on, it can't reach it because it's down too far. So I'm going to have to sort of arrange the way this heating element is screwed down. All right, I've run into a little problem that you're probably going to have as well, and that is the springs in here. If you flip it the way you had it before when you pulled them out, this wants to fall, and it takes the spring with it, and also difficult to grab the spring from the top. So I see two ways of getting around this. One is to do the opposite of what I said before and hook the spring onto the plastic and just take your chances when you're attaching it here where you have some access, right? For me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take the spring off and feed it in from, if I can get it off, all of a sudden, this can only happen to me. Don't worry, this won't happen to you because it can only ever happen to me. This spring has now decided that it doesn't, there, finally. Unfortunately, you have to put it in from this side. You can't put the spring in the other way because there's no room for the diameter of the entire spring. So it's going to require a little bit of fun. So I dropped it in this end, and you can see it's sticking out. You can see it's sticking out right there, right? So now I can take it and put it easily, hopefully easily, into that little slot where it sat before, and then hopefully grab it from this side. I don't know if that was on camera, if you could see if my glove was in the way or what, but I think you kind of got the idea, right? Oh, got it. Okay, at this point, when I was putting it in, I wasn't really sure how it went in, and there was a little piece that I wasn't sure if it sprang out or not, and did it go on the other side. And I noticed that like there was a gear inside, and so I knew, because I couldn't remember like where these white things were, if they were sort of down or up or what. And so I noticed that there was a gear inside the printer, and I knew that my gear had to mesh with it, and it was only accessible one way, so that told me how to kind of rotate it. And I just kind of fiddled, and it sort of fell into place. But I made a little mistake here. When I put this screw in, I put it in like all the way. And I think what you should do is put it in loosely so that this still has some room to move, because my screw hole here is a little tiny bit off, and I think I'm going to need to wiggle that a little bit maybe. So it goes right down there, and then it slides in. So something doesn't seem quite right on this side to me. It seems like it should go there, and it keeps wanting to pop out. Okay, I found the problem with this cover. On the top here is a little tab, and that has to go under that white part right there. Then it'll sit flush. Like, if I do this right, behind. And then, it went right in last time. There we go. There we go. And now it's where it needs to be. And on the other side, there's this little tab there, and it fits in the hole. Sorry, right there where my finger is. See it? So if you can find that hole there, then this will just swing right into place.